KP Video News, y'all.
That's right, it's KP Video News.
It's time for what? KP Video News, y'all. KP Video News, y'all.
That's right, it's KP Video News, y'all. And this story here, man, is like one of the reasons why we can't get any good law enforcement in the United States. You know, this is a direct reason why. Listen to this story, and it tells itself. The story tells itself. 3 years ago, an officer was filmed beating up a handcuffed black man. Now, he's the police chief. That's right. I'm going to say it again. 3 years ago, an officer was filmed beating up a handcuffed black man. Now, he's the police chief of that particular city. When KENDRICK RATLIFF tried to reach for a pill bottle that police had confiscated from him, his physical struggle with officers in Hammond, Louisiana quickly got violent. As the black man was wrestled with them on top of a table in a police booking room, one officer kicked Ratliff in the head. And video of the 2017 incident shows another placed his boot on the man's neck. Sergeant EDWIN BERGERON, who was white, punched Ratliff 5 times with a closed fist. "I got beat, stomped, kicked in my groin," Ratliff stated, and the story was first published back in August. Following the tussle, Bergeron was promoted to police chief. Ratliff was convicted of resisting arrest, and city officials in Hammond, a college town of roughly 20,000 in southeastern Louisiana, reportedly told his lawyer that complete footage of the incident did not exist. Now, I'm going to say this again. This is important. The city officials in Hammond, Louisiana, reportedly told Ratliff's lawyer that the complete footage of the incident did not exist. But this week, the full video of the incident was published by a local TV station. Local civil rights activists have renewed their calls for the embattled chief to resign, as federal officials have reportedly reopened investigation into the booking room fight. This behavior is egregious enough, but a blatant lie accompanied this behavior by your police department that the leaked video did not exist. So 3 local NAACP chapters said in a letter to Bergeron, "We have law enforcement officers from all over the state calling us and saying this is bad. Neither Bergeron nor Hammond Mayor Pete Panapito, who appointed the chief, immediately responded to a request for comment from and from the local media. But in a statement last month, a spokesperson for Hammond City government pointed out that neither local nor federal officials had opted to investigate Bergeron, who has increased community outreach and seen a reduction in crime his year and a half in a row. With all this going on, why is the video coming up again?" the statement said. "It seems more motivated by a personal vendetta instead of real interest in the public safety of Hammond." Ratliff first ended up in the booking room in December 2017. This is an old case, but the information just came out. After Hammond police officers saw his car illegally parked when officers approached his vehicle for a traffic stop and searched inside, they say they found a pill bottle containing Xanax, marijuana, and prescription drugs. A tussle inside the booking room involving nearly a dozen officers proved so alarming to local officials that the city's police chief alerted federal officials. Investigators declined to take any further action against any of the officers involved. The attorney directed them to bring it up to the FBI. They investigated. They came back with nothing. Pinto said at the Hammond City Council meeting on Monday. One policeman who had been present in the booking room, Thomas Mushinsky, was disciplined, receiving a 60-day suspension and additional training. As he fought that order, Mushinsky commissioned a private report from a use of force consultancy in Texas. It's a whole nother state away, which called the tactics used by Bergeron excessive and borderline criminal. A spokesperson for the city of Hammond stated they never saw that report, as it was presented directly to the local civil service board reviewing his appeal. Months later, when the police chief slot opened for the third time in 4 years, Panapinto offered Bergeron before the city council as the only nominee for the job. Speaking to Hammond City Council in March 2019, the mayor said Bergeron had stuck with the department for nearly 2 decades, proving qualities like innovation and leadership. Some city residents expressed concerns about his history, prompting 2 public meetings over his possible appointment. As a lower-ranking police officer, Bergeron had allegedly tried to convince a college student from suing one of his fraternity brothers for rape, according to reports, before the woman killed herself 2 months later. Bergeron stated that he didn't have anything to do with it, although the suit was later settled. In addition, a shortened 30-second clip of the incident involving Ratliff had also been circulating around social media, and some residents who viewed it at the public meeting said they were disturbed, but the council voted Bergeron in anyway at 4-1. There's the usual armchair quarterbacks or people not in policing who assume they know what policing entails. Pimpanito said at the time, when you're involved and an active officer, you're in positions where people may question what you see. And if you see the full video, the gentleman came out of the cuff and across his desk. After the vote, council member Devin Wells said that most everyone in the town had seen the 30-second video, which was played for the crowd during at least one of the 2 meetings. But I know this guy from seeing him, from dealing with him, and from working with around me in the community. Although most of the 13 charges brought against Ratliff were later dropped, he was convicted on marijuana possession misdemeanor as well as resisting arrest. So he made a request for the local district attorney. However, they said officials in Hammond Police Department claimed the video did not exist. Shaw got his hands on the video earlier this summer, though it's unclear how, and then he passed it on to the TV station. What shocked me is that they would so blatantly lie and tell another officer of the court that the video did not exist. It did at one point and clearly still exists now, showing what happened to my client. So they hid the video, man. Hid the video. So now this guy, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but what should happen is that he should get fired and he should be brought up on charges. And everybody that was involved in that particular incident need to be brought up on charges, and he definitely need to be removed from that particular job. And here we go with another situation. We got multiple Boston cops arrested for stealing taxpayer money over the course of several years. Several years, not just a year, several years. The U.S. Attorney Lelling, 9 current or former officers were arrested for stealing taxpayer money through overtime pay fraud in a years-long scheme. U.S. Attorney for the District of Massachusetts, Lelling, said on Wednesday that although he supports police in general, official misconduct needs to be punished. I'm a strong supporter of the police, especially in these difficult times, but all must be treated equally under the law, regardless of wealth, power, or station, Lelling said. These officers are charged with stealing taxpayer money year after year through fraud. Beyond the theft of funds, this kind of official misconduct also erodes trust in public institutions, and at a time when trust is most needed. The officers scheduled to make a virtual court appearance on Wednesday have been identified. These are the retired officers facing charges: Sergeant Gerald O'Brien, Sergeant Robert Twitchell, Henry Doherty, Diana Lopez, James Carnes, and Ronald Nelson. The current officers who have been suspended without pay pending the outcome of the case are Lieutenant Torrigan, Michael Murphy, and Kendrick Conway. The feds say that the defendants are all charged with the count of conspiracy to commit theft concerning programs receiving federal funds and a count of embezzlement from the agency receiving federal funds. Here's how the scheme allegedly worked. According to the indictment, the defendants were assigned to Boston Police Department's Evidence Control Unit, where they were responsible for, among other things, storing, cataloging, and retrieving evidence at the warehouse. ECU officers were eligible to earn overtime pay of 1.5 times the time and a half their regular hourly pay rate for overtime assignments. It is alleged that beginning in at least May 2016, the defendants routinely departed overtime shifts 2 or more hours early, but submitted false and fraudulent overtime slips claiming to have worked the entirety of each shift. One overtime shift, calling purge overtime, was focused on reducing the inventory of the evidence warehouse. The shift was supposed to be performed between 4 and 8 p.m. on weekdays, on the days which the defendants claimed to have worked until 8 p.m. The warehouse was closed, locked, and alarmed well before 8 p.m., and often by 6 p.m. or before. Despite this, it is alleged that the defendants routinely submitted false and fraudulent overtime slips claiming to have worked from 4 to 8. Supervisors who also left early from this shift allegedly submitted their own false and fraudulent slips and knowingly endorsed the fraudulent overtime slips of their subordinates. So, the allegations and behavior alleged in today's indictments is very troubling and in no way reflect the attitudes of the hard-working employees of the Boston Police Department. And he holds his officers to the highest standards and expecting them to obey all the laws. And so he said what they did would not be tolerated or ignored and can damage the trust my officers have worked so hard to build with the communities we serve. And so, these cats are, out there stealing, man. So here's another corrupt situation. Georgia, the state of Georgia, likely removed 200,000 voters from voter rolls wrongfully. The state of Georgia has removed nearly 200,000 Georgia citizens from the voter rolls, with wrongfully concluding that those people had moved and not changed the addresses on their voter registration, when in fact they had never moved, according to a new report released. The ACLU of Georgia released a report which was conducted by the Investigative Fund, a nonpartisan group that focuses on data journalism. For the report, Palace hired experts to conduct an advanced address list hygiene, a method of residential address verification, to review 313,000 names that were removed from the state voter rolls in 2019. Their findings claim that 63% of the voters had not, in fact, moved and were purged in error. Reacting to the report, Andrea Young, executive director of ACLU of Georgia, stated, on the one hand, it's deeply saddened. On the other hand, it's not entirely surprising. Young described the method the state has used to maintain its voting list as prone to tremendous error and not on par with the industry standard for residential address verification. In December 2019, the Georgia Secretary of State said they had removed hundreds of thousands of registered voters it classified as inactive from its voting roll as part of a state provision. Under the provision, the state must remove registration records from the voter rolls that have been deemed inactive for more than 3 years. This is where the count goes a little crazy. A voter characterized as inactive if they don't vote in 2 general elections and have had no contact with the Board of Elections in that time, according to the state Secretary of State, Brad Rapsensberger's office. Now, that makes no sense. It makes no sense. You say they have to be inactive, they have to be deemed inactive for more than 3 years, but you're saying if they don't vote in 2 elections, they have no contact, so that means in 2 elections, that's 2 years. But the roll states that a person needs to be deemed inactive for more than 3 years, but you're taking them off after 2 years. And This is voter suppression, folks. Keep telling you, watch your states, and you got to do what you got to do. This voter suppression and this voter fraud by these Republicans, man, is just so widespread and rampant. They're trying to steal these elections. Deputy Secretary of State Jordan Fuchs responded to the report, saying a year ago, Justin Gray, a credible journalist, conducted a story to see if people on the list had been removed or not. His on the ground reporting showed that those who were on the list to be counseled were no longer at that address. It's unfortunate that the ACLU hired a known Stacey Abrams. The story Fuchs references a 2019 report that involved one West Atlanta neighborhood. The 30 homes the reporter checked seemed to have been removed because the person moved away or was deceased. About 313,000 voters were removed from the list, or about 4% of all the registered voters in the state. At that time, the inactive voters were marked for removal after failing to respond to a pre-addressed postage page confirmation card within 30 days. The card asked voters to confirm or update their information. A prior lawsuit over the 313,000 voters from the far-right action ended up forcing the state to restore 22,000 of the voter registrations until December 2021. The real takeaway from this is the state of Georgia is using a methodology for maintaining its voter rolls that is both more expensive and less accurate than what industry would use to maintain a high-quality mailing list. The report also outlined 3 ways the state of Georgia verifies a person's address, a form of national change of address registry of the U.S. Postal Service, return mail, or failure to vote in 2 federal elections combined with the failure to return a postcard that is used to confirm an address. So I'm telling you now, man, state of Georgia is one of the states you're going to have to watch. You're going to have to watch real close, because the last election, the last primary election they had a couple of months ago, they had people in minority neighborhoods waiting in line for hours. And the spots that used to have like 100 polling places, they dropped it down to like 10. But on the other side of town, in the Republican areas, you know, you can go in and vote in 5 minutes and be in and out. So all this stuff like this, man, is highly illegal. And as long as you have these people that are appointed to these jobs, you know, they're going to continue with this voter suppression and this voter purge that they're doing to try to keep people from voting. And this voter suppression at its worst is going on right now as we speak. So be ready to vote early. If you're not going to vote by mail, go down there and do early voting. Early voting starts. Some places start this month in a couple of weeks. So check your local polling information. Get your local county and state registrars and see what's going on over there. Do what you got to do, folk. You have got to get out and vote. You got to vote.
KP Video News, y'all. KP Video News, y'all.